Welcome back to another episode of Team Building Tips with Dan Talbot. We'll be right back with Dan and episode number 12 of this series. But first, let's hear from our podcast sponsors. Before we get started, we want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing. Hometown Ticketing helps thousands of schools and organizations across the country seamlessly provide convenient digital ticketing options to their communities, their families, and their fans. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. And to find out more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your program, go to hometownticketing.com and talk to their experts. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and find out how athletic directors, coaches, and schools are creating world-class marketing content for their school's social media channels. You can do it in seconds on any device and without needing any design experience. It's so easy, even I can do it. Our backdrop is a Gipper template, and we use Gipper to help announce our podcast episodes. Go to Gipper.com and start creating world-class marketing content. We also want to say thanks to Final Forms, the industry leader in registration. But Final Forms is more than that. Final Forms is a team, it's technology, and they provide schools with compliance, communication, and risk management solutions. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with mobile accessibility, and they have reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and all the forms that come with athletics. Final Forms can also help with team communication and attendance, and even certification management for coaches. And for athletic directors, Final Forms can help with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. And it does this with secure language translation. You know, it's time for you to talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started on the Final Forms team. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a head football coach, I used Huddle, and as an athletic director, we were a Huddle school. Our coaches just loved the cameras, how easy they were to program, of course, the analytics and the film breakdown. Huddle was tremendous for us with customer service and customer support. It's also the complete performance platform with mobile tools, with smart cameras and analytics. It's also built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high schools and colleges. There's over 6 million users, including your student athletes and the coaches you're trying to get to recruit them. If you want to find out more about how Huddle can help you and your program and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to say thanks to SnapRaise. Better fundraising makes better programs. So get away from the fundraising headaches of the past. No more selling products or management lists. Go to SnapRaise.com. Choosing the best fundraiser for you and your group is a big step, and you can find out the SnapRaise digital difference. It's easy and effective, it's safe and secure, and you can track participation and progress. Go to their website, SnapRaise.com, and see the thousands and thousands of dollars that they have helped schools and teams raise over the years. Our coaches use SnapRaise, and it was fantastic. Change your fundraising game plan and start a fundraiser that works for you. Go to SnapRaise.com for more information. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive indoor scoring tables and video boards. They not only raise money for your athletic department, but create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and see exactly what their fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. And we want to say thanks to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They've got a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles and an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. Let them help you showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments, and go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. You can also email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. Let them help you showcase your school's legacy and bring that legacy to life. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Team Building Tips with Dan Talbot. This is episode number 12 in this series. Every week we meet with Dan Talbot, Certified Master Athletic Administrator and the District Athletic Director for Polk County Schools in Polk County, Florida. Dan, what do you got for us this week on Team Building Tips?
Kind of really ties back to managing your department, whether, be a district athletic director or, an athletic director at a school. But, one of the things you can do to help yourself, and a lot of this stuff is common knowledge, but we're talking about it because we can't assume, if you watch last week's, we can't assume anybody knows this, but, really try to respect your team's time. That can be a pet peeve with people. If you say you're going to have a meeting at 1, start the meeting at 1. If you tell them that it's going to end at 3, end it at 3. Because people, are working their day around your schedule. Obviously, they're taking the time to be there. But if you say you're going to start at 1 o'clock and then you come, kind of messing around, talking, having a good time, and you start the meeting at 1:30 and don't end until 3:30, yes, you're the boss and you have the authority and autonomy to do that, but what kind of environment are you creating? I mean, so, really respect your team. And I mean your team, because everybody in your department is part of your team. Everyone needs to be on the same page, but respect their time and their boundaries, and because you don't know what's going on in people's life. We don't want to assume too much, but they're taking the time out of their day to be there, and be respectful of that time. Nothing frustrates me more when, I get called to a meeting in the way my calendar looks, and someone assumes that I have nothing on my calendar. So they say, oh, we'll just meet tomorrow at 7 a.m. with no consideration of what I had going on. So, respect their time, give them adequate time to plan, for your meetings. Like for me and our district athletic director meetings, I set the calendar for the year, and I try not to change them, but obviously, does that always work? No. But respect your team's time and their boundaries when it comes to those meetings. And I think, you'll have more buy-in. A lot of people, because when you hear other people complain about the situations they're in, they're complaining, no communication. I feel they don't respect me. All those little things tie into some of the simplest things we do, and it's communicating, and whether it's scheduling a meeting and sticking to that time. And if you got to cancel the meeting, you're probably better off canceling it, rescheduling it down the line instead of trying to move it later on that day. Because, obviously, most of the time when you're in charge of a group of people, very rarely are you going to have someone say, hey, look, you planned this meeting 2 months ago and you said it was from 1 to 3. I got this at 3:30, or I got that. Most people aren't going to say that. And that just causes a very unhealthy work environment, or very unhealthy working relationship. So just be respectful of your team's time and understanding it, and be flexible when it comes to that stuff. So if you say the meeting's going to start at 1, start it right at 1 o'clock. Because, for me, time is something I'm very urgent about, and a pet peeve. And I think it was growing up in a military family. My father said to be home at 9 o'clock. I was home prior to 9. I remember when I came home late, I got home at like 9 o'clock. I came in after 9 o'clock, and it was like 9 o'clock and 15 seconds. And my father says, you're late. It's like, I'm late. It's 9 o'clock. He says, you're to be home before 9 o'clock. It's after 9 o'clock. And even though it was like 15 seconds, growing up in that military lifestyle, late's late. But, in order to have a healthy relationship with your team and your staff, be respectful of their boundaries and their time.
It's so true. I'm very fond of using the expression, after talking to a parent. I know you've had these same types of conversations, but I'll joke to a colleague, that's 20 minutes of my life I'm never going to get back. And, my coaches knew that. And so if we started like 2 minutes late, we're waiting for that one coach to show up. I said, oh, we're going to give him 2 minutes courtesy time. One of my coaches would invariably say, that's 2 minutes. You're not going to get back, Jake. So again, it's courtesy from your end, and it's courtesy from the coaches. And we eventually just started straight up 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever it was. That's when we started, and the coaches adjusted and maybe had a little help from me.
Well, and one thing to alleviate that too is if you're going to have a 1 o'clock meeting, have the welcome from 12:45 to 1, because here's the thing, especially if you're an athletic director and you're bringing your coaches together for the first time and they haven't seen each other all summer, or it's something with the new school year, it's going to be difficult, especially if they get along, to really wrangle them in at 1 o'clock and get going. So, be smart and build in a little time buffer, because they haven't seen each other. They're going to want to talk. They're going to, how's this going? Especially if they all, if it's a cohesive group and they get along, they're going to want to know how each other's doing in that scenario. So you can build in, whether it's, a lot of times for us, when we do the welcome, hey, lunch is from 12 to 1, the meeting starts at 1. So the ones that can't get there, and let them know there's going to be a box lunch. So you can, if you get there at 12:55, pick up your box lunch, eat while we're working and stuff like that. But it kind of helps for meeting to start on time, instead of people showing up at 12:45, 12:50, the new person walks in the room, and then everyone always has the character within the group that's going to show up, 3 minutes before the meeting's about to start, and try to take over the room. So be mindful in your scheduling, but be respectful of their time as well.
Right. And that's another great idea. We morphed into that over the years. Our dining hall, we didn't have a cafeteria. We had a dining hall. The chef would create these great little desserts, cookies or stuff. And so we would have that available like 20 minutes before the meeting started. And then at 1 o'clock, boxed it up, put it away, and it was out of sight. So, people knew, you wanted to come there and socialize, which is, you're absolutely right. They do need that time to decompress and just kind of, be like kids. But hey, when we start at 1, we're done at 1:29 and 52 seconds. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Get them out on time. That's important.
Yeah.
And it'll go a long way.
Mm-hmm. Quick question. Again, from a district level, you're dealing with, many, many more individuals, but maybe let's focus in on one school. You're having a meeting with that particular athletic staff. How did you handle off-campus coaches, that might be working during the day, and it was a struggle for them to get to a 1 o'clock or even a 2 o'clock or even a right after school, say a 3 o'clock meeting? Any suggestions for working with that group?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to meet with them, at night or whatever kind of best suits their schedule. Obviously the people working, in the school system don't want to give up a Saturday or Sunday unless they have to, because they do it enough during their respective seasons. But sometimes you're going to have to come back for that night meeting, or basically just make time to, meet with that person individually, depending on how many community coaches you got, and be respectful of other people's time, and try not to, because, a lot of people don't want to meet at night because of their family situations or the things they got planned. So really, as a leader of the athletic department, sometimes you're going to have to make sacrifices, depending on what type of meeting it is, to get those done, and just make those choices to meet with them at night, or maybe something on the weekend, have lunch with them or something like that, and have 2 separate meetings, and give people, the option to come one to the other. Because it's difficult, like I said, and more we're seeing community coaches more in our high schools than we ever have before.
Yeah, it's so different than, I'm going to guess even when you were in high school, that I'm going to guess most of your coaches were probably in the building. Mm.
Oh yeah, I probably couldn't even tell you what a community coach was in high school, and nowadays, teachers are underpaid and the demands placed on them are greater than they've ever have. And so those teachers, I mean, and you know who they are. I mean, you know, I know when I was at the school-based level, I wouldn't dare enter the teacher parking lot at right when school dismissed, because you think those kids drive crazy. Them teachers trying to get right out of there right when the bell rings, they drive 100 times worse. And I never wanted to get run over, because those teachers they show up at the last second, they leave. I mean, they're worse than the kids when the school bell rings at each and every day. But there's a lot of demands put on teachers this day, especially in the accountability areas, math, English, reading, and science. So, I get that portion of it too. But, you also get 100, you only work 180 days a year too. So there's that other side of it too. And, a lot of coaches, they don't get, if you're a football coach, you hope you're playing it over Thanksgiving. If you're a wrestling coach, a soccer coach, and a basketball coach, you're not getting Christmas break. And if you coach track and baseball and softball, you're in a tournament during spring break. Football is one of the sports where if you're playing on Thanksgiving, you're doing a heck of a job. But it's just one of those things, our time.
You just made me think of another question. I know you've got to get going here, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Oh, fine.
At our school, the schools that I was at, again, mostly private schools, we would tell our coaches that, the expectation is that, you're going to help this team go on to the playoffs and hopefully all the way through. But if you don't, we're not going to deduct that from your stipend. So, you're going to get your full stipend, whether you coach all the way to the state championship game or not. And it was somewhat tongue in cheek, but it was the opposite of, well, hey, aren't we going to get paid? We worked 2 extra weeks or 3 extra weeks or 4 extra weeks and went all the way to the state tournament. How are you able to, because obviously it's budget related. How do you handle that with teams that go on to the playoffs at your district? Is there additional supplement, or is the stipend?
No, not in our district. There is, like, we pay them $50 a day. Like when fall practice starts before teachers report, we do have $50 a day for those if they have to come back a little early. But, the guy that went 0-10, the guy that went 15-0, unfortunately get paid the same.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, but nothing really does in our world. But not too many people complain about it, because the ones that are successful are enjoying it and having a good time. It's like they're not even working, but it's just one of those. And the problem in Florida, despite the million problems we do have that you see on the internet and those things like that and making fun of us, but we're actually, there are some good people in Florida, believe me. But every county is different how they handle athletic directors, and every county is different on how they handle the supplements. So I mean, that's one crazy thing about Florida, is everything is county driven, district wide driven, because in Florida there's districts, there's some districts with 1 high school, 1 middle school, 2 elementary schools, and then there's some, you go down to Miami-Dade or Broward County and there's 40 something high schools. And it's one of those deals where everybody does something a little different everywhere, so there's really no set guidelines for what they do. And I know in a lot of school districts, their booster club kick in at some point in time too for those. So it's just, no matter, everywhere it's somewhere different.
Yeah, that's a whole nother episode, starting to talk about booster clubs. But
yeah, I don't even know if we want to go down that road.
Dan, always great to share this time with you. If one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me is by my cell phone. Again, 863-661-0647. 863-661-0647. That is my true cell phone number. Don't worry, it's not an all you can eat takeout place somewhere in Florida. It's my actual cell phone number.
Dan Talbot, Certified Master Athletic Administrator, Polk County District AD. Thanks so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
For listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of every interview we do get uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this every week with Dan, T-Building Tips, and just about every day on the Educational AD Podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. We appreciate you tuning in today to the Educational AD Podcast and Team Building Tips. We want to thank our sponsors that help us do this. First, Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. At our schools, we use surveys all the time with our teachers, with our coaches, with our parents and our student athletes. And the information that we got back from them was empowering almost all the time. It was overwhelmingly positive, which is a great tool to have. But there can be those parents that are kind of the squeaky wheel parent that it gives them a chance to vent. And then it gives you a chance to talk to them. You wouldn't know that without the survey. Also, sometimes they can point out things that you need to work on, and it gives you some information to work with a coach or a program to help make it better. So check out Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack, athleticsurveys.com. We also want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I never got to use Hometown Ticketing because I retired just as they were coming into vogue, but I've talked to hundreds of athletic directors and they all swear by Hometown Ticketing. Go to hometownticketing.com and let them help you in your program. We also want to thank Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years. As an athletic director, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com and find out how they can help you and your coaches and your fans through analytics meet the needs of your student athletes. That's huddle.com. We also want to thank Final Forms, the official registration platform for the FIAAA conference. Final Forms can help with eligibility, with rosters, with information to your parents. Go to finalforms.com and talk to their experts. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. The backdrop that you're looking at right now is a Gipper template. We use Gipper to help promote our podcast episodes. Go to Gipper.com. It's so easy to use. Even I can do it. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor scoring tables and video boards. Our school is one of the first in Florida to have a Sideline Interactive indoor scoring table, and it was just fantastic. We used it for home games, of course, but we also used it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, talk to their experts about getting one of their consoles installed in your school. And finally, we want to say thanks to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. Once again, the FIAAA has a Wall of Fame video console for their Hall of Fame, and Wall of Fame can do that for you. You can recognize your student leaders, your coaching leaders, school records, or as I mentioned, a Hall of Fame. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com or send an email to sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com for more information. And then finally, we want to say thanks to SnapRaise. Go to SnapRaise.com and find out how their fundraising platform can help you raise thousands of dollars. Our coaches use SnapRaise.com, and it was fantastic. It's safe and secure. You can track performance. Go to SnapRaise.com and start raising money for your program. Once again, we appreciate you listening to the Educational AD Podcast and Team Building Tips. Come back next week for Team Building Tips and just about every day for the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.